And welcome back to our special on California's so-called bullet train connecting LA to San Fran. Some critics call it the train to nowhere. I'm joined by investigative producer Heidi Kuda. Between the two of us, we've spent a lot of time and resources looking into every aspect of this, and there's just a lot of unanswered questions still.
Absolutely. Here we go. 3 Democratic senators broke party ranks when they voted against funding high-speed rail, but it wasn't enough to stop the project, which may never see its way to Los Angeles if they can't get more cash. Diane Harkey, a Southern California Assemblywoman, is passionately fighting against the current high-speed rail plan.
I'm going to reintroduce legislation using Article 16 of the state's constitution to defund any remaining portions of the high-speed rail bond.
Diane Harkey's playing constitutional hardball.
The legislature may at any time, after the approval of the debt by the people, revoke or reduce the amount of the debt if things have changed, and that's Article 16. And that's what we need to do.
The Republican Assemblywoman from Dana Point says she's introducing legislation to curtail California's high-speed rail because she doesn't believe Californians are getting what they voted for.
They were told that, there would be funding for it, that we would have private investment, and that there would be federal funding for it as well. That's not coming.
She says her biggest concern, the state simply can't afford it. The Rail Authority's low-cost estimate for the entire project is $68 billion, and currently they have $6 billion cash on hand.
We can't afford to be mowing through towns, wasting billions of dollars, and accruing more debt on something that we have no future funding for.
But Rail Authority Chairman Dan Richards says this project needs to happen.
There are a number of financing sources that we haven't even begun to tap. For example, the high-speed rail projects coming through these cities will promote tremendous growth right around the stations. We've seen this with transit properties around the country. We have been very careful in building this program, knowing that we build it out in steps, knowing that the rest of the money is uncertain, so that each piece that we build has to have value in and of itself.
Harkey says she's not buying any of it.
100 miles of unelectrified track somewhere in the Central Valley is not a need or a priority of the state right now.
So what she's in effect doing is asking the legislature to halt funding, to halt any future bond sales under the High-Speed Rail Act. She says she plans to introduce this legislation in January.
So that's a concrete step that may derail the whole project, no pun intended. There's also a lawsuit pending from some of those farmers we saw up in Madera County, which there's going to be a hearing on in November in Sacramento.
Absolutely.
So it is possible that even though they have plans to break ground next year, it may not happen.
Well, this is what people are hoping, but from the federal level to the state level,
the feds are pushing
they really want this to
yeah.
happen. So, but this is another way. Now Harkey has introduced this type of legislation before. She said initially she got a little bit of support, next time she got more support, and right now, because we're looking at possible trigger cuts to education and things that we are, are very meaningful to us in the state right now, she thinks she's going to have more support come January than she's had in the past.
And I think when people really take a closer look at this, they may say, wait. Not a good idea, like what the critics are saying now.
Well, unfortunately, 2008 was a very different climate from 2012, and that's the key. We all love that vision, that bullet train vision, and the reality is what we're faced with right now.
All right, and talking lawsuits, there is one lawsuit that could just put a halt to the entire high-speed project.
What the authority plans to do is a giant fraud on the voters.